As I begin the Bible pause for today, I'm encouraged to think about the possibility of the New York State pause ending very soon and the reopening phases beginning. I do want you to know I don't have any insider information regarding where churches fit in and the reopening, but I do want you to know that our leadership team is continuing to meet and discuss when we feel would be the best time for our church to regather and what that would look like initially. So we would ask for your prayers for wisdom and discernment in this discussion process. So that being said, I want to continue, at least for the near future, our Bible times together, our Bible pause times together. And so what I would like to do is starting today, I would like to, for the next several weeks, look at some of the names of God that are found in the Old Testament. You see, the Bible in particular uses names for a specific reason. They were used to make a statement. They were used to determine a family heritage, describe character, and sometimes to announce a destiny. And though introduced to us, hundreds of years ago, the names of God are still relevant and powerful for us today and can have an impact on our daily lives. I would say that people are aware and sensitive about spacing and safety now more than any time that I could ever recall. A safe place sounds good, especially in the world that we live in today. So, the concept of a safe place brings us to the Bible pause name of God for today. So, if you have your Bibles handy, I would encourage you to grab them and turn to Psalm chapter 18, and we'll look at verse number 2. Psalm 18 and verse 2. David writes this: "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." Two terms in particular in this verse, fortress and stronghold, are very similar in the Hebrew, and they carry with them the idea of being a fort, a castle, something being strong or inaccessible place as far as it goes to enemies. So, in respects to God, these two terms form a powerful name of God. Here it is: Jehovah Metsud Haithai. Jehovah Metsud Haithai. And it means God is a high tower. He is the God who provides cover. And by the way, I love saying that name, Jehovah Metsud Haithai. David was well acquainted with this name of God since he wrote this verse after being saved from his enemies, and in particular Saul. This was where he took cover. So the name Jehovah Metsud Haithai is mainly described for us in the book of Psalms. In Psalms, God is mentioned as our fortress 17 times and our stronghold 7 times. And so the question is, since God is our cover, what do we need to take cover from? Well, the Bible describes for us, especially in the book of Psalms, some things that we need to take cover from. We often need to take cover from difficult circumstances. Psalm 9:9, "The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of struggle." We need this cover when we find ourselves sensing being overwhelmed by life. We also need to take cover from mistreatment. Psalm 59 and verse 1, "Deliver me from my enemies, O God, be my fortress against those who are attacking me." And this mistreatment can come in many forms and from different places. We also need to take cover from fear. Psalm 27 and verse 1, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold, the cover of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" There are many times in our lives when we need to run for cover. Whether it's these 3 areas I just mentioned or others, it's not a matter of if we need to take cover, but how prepared are we to take cover when we need to? And the most pressing question when times of cover present themselves is this: where do we go? We know we'll have times we need to go for cover, but where do we go for cover? We are often tempted to choose alternative cover measures in place of Jehovah Metsud Haithai. Some of those safety measures or cover measures we often revert to are things like money or possessions or even job security. Sometimes it's things like drugs or alcohol or food, Or even relationships we look to for comfort to the degree that they can't provide. Sometimes we look to things like rejection or retaliation. And what do I mean by that? Is we, instead of going to God for cover, we reject His cover. And these alternatives of cover really turn out to be just houses of straw and sticks. So instead of these safety measures, we need to take cover in the strong tower, which is God. And how do we do that? How do we go to this tower? How do we go to this safe place? Well, again, the book of Psalms helps us. It says that we can ask or pray for God to be this cover. Psalm 31 and verse 2, it says, "Turn your ear to me, God. Come quickly to my rescue. Be my rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me." You and I shouldn't be too proud or too self reliant or too ashamed to ask God for help. We need help. Where do I go when I need a shelter? Where do I go when I need a friend? Where do I go when I need some helping? Where do I go? Back on my knees again and asking God to be my cover and my shelter. How do we take cover? We also do this through worship. Psalm 59, verse 17, "You are my strength. I will sing praise to you. God, you are my fortress, my God in whom I rely." Worship is assigning worth to something or someone. So we say to God, "You are worthy of my worship because you are my high tower. You are my fortress. You are my cover." People who rarely worship God rarely rely on God. So we take cover by worshiping Him. We also take cover by trusting in Him. Psalm 91 and verse 2, "I will say of the Lord, He's my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." Even though I'm tempted to want to default to some of these other cover measures, I will put my trust in you. And the most important aspect of trust is not that you fully believe or that you have 100% of faith all the time, but who you put your trust in. So you've decided to take cover in Jehovah Metsu Haisai, the high tower. And this action may seem strange to those around you, and they may even question the value of you taking cover in God. So, what are the benefits of taking cover in the tower? Well, again, the Bible reminds us that when we take our cover in God, when we find that safe place in God, He promises strength and love. But I will sing of your strength. In the morning, I will sing of your love because you are my fortress. Psalm 59, verse 16. We also receive the benefit of reliability, that this shelter is never closed. Psalm 71 and verse 3, "Be my rock of refuge to which I can always go." There's also the benefit of stability and hope. Psalm 62 and verse 2, "Truly He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken." And there's also the benefit of guidance. Psalm 31, 3, "Since you are my rock and my fortress, for the sake of your name, lead and guide me." For some of you today, you know you need to take cover, but you've yet to ask, or you've chosen another cover alternative. Why not take cover right now, today, in Jehovah Methu Haisai? God is my safe place.